Hello, everybody, and welcome to the inaugural episode of the E-commerce Revolution video podcast. We are doing video and video only, although we will distribute it through normal podcast channels as well. We are from SKU Agency, and we are essentially sponsoring this podcast. My name is Ramin. I'll be your host throughout this journey. As I said, this is our inaugural episode. We are really excited to get things rolling. We'll probably be doing 2 to 3 episodes per month to start with, and then rolling out more and more and more. Our goal, really, to educate and entertain you on all things e-commerce. And yes, I believe that we can entertain you. E-commerce can be entertaining. I have over about 25 years of experience in the world of e-commerce, but I'll get to tell you, I've been a retailer, I've been a consultant, and I'm a agency owner. I still love learning and exploring all aspects of e-commerce. I love to learn new processes. I love to learn new technology. So I hope all of this will come out in these various podcasts that we're doing, and you guys get to come along for this journey and learn just as much as I will and just as much as our guests will. Okay. So today we're really excited to be exploring a phenomenal topic. This topic is really I love this topic a lot. It's called conversion-focused design. And we are thrilled to have an expert in this field. Okay. And he's none other than my business partner. His name is Mr. Michael Trang. And Michael has a great background. So he is graduated from Southeast Missouri State with a degree in industrial engineering technology. We're going to have to ask him what that means because that seems way over my head. And also, by the way, a minor in fine arts, which probably plays also into his world of design. Michael's held many positions, including SEO manager, graphic designer, CAD designer. I'll have to ask him about that. Project manager, and now he's the managing partner at SKU Agency, and he handles all of the product management for all of our projects. So it's a really, really important role that he leads in the company. And also, listen, Michael, this is an interesting one. Michael has been named 40 under 40 ones to watch in both 2019 and 2020. So they're always looking out for new and up and coming candidates to become 40 under 40. So that's a great honor to be named that. And Michael's also an SEO trained practitioner. I got to know more about that too. I mean, I know Michael pretty well, but some of these titles, we're going to have to dive into them a little bit more. And he's also Google Analytics Platform Principles certified. And this is the best part. He is a social media influencer that we're going to dive super deep on. Okay. So let's welcome Mr. Michael Trang. Michael, great to have you on this inaugural episode. Hello there. Hello.
Thank you for the great introduction. You make me sound way cooler than I actually am.
That's what podcasts are supposed to do, right?
Yeah, for sure.
Well, I think that, this is, again, as our inaugural episode, the topic is phenomenal and fascinating to me as well. And you've taught me a lot about design, but it's really important to get this thing kicked off by having, my business partner. You and I have been in business for almost going on 4 years now.
Yeah.
It's been a long road.
Heck yeah. It's been a long, fun road.
Yeah, I think so.
A lot of lessons learned too, for sure.
Absolutely. Well, let's dive in a little bit. First, before we get into the real meat of the topic, let's talk about this social media influencing. What's going on there? Tell the audience about it. I know a little bit, but I really want to hear it from you. And it's an important area of business as well. And probably a lot of our listeners will be fascinated to hear this. So dive in a little bit. Tell me more.
Yeah. Totally. So, outside of working for SKU and focusing on e-commerce, I myself and my girlfriend, we do some competitive kayak angling. And in doing so, one day we just decided to start posting our catches and our adventures online, and, it started taking off a little bit. People started noticing and people started following. And then before you know it, people started reaching out, like companies started reaching out and asking if we promote their products and things along those lines. So we kind of just inadvertently became these, I guess you consider micro influencers. We're not, we don't have like millions of followers like some, like the Kardashians and those other Hollywood types. But,
Right.
within the fishing industry, we do have some influence, not only like over our region, but a little bit, we have some people following us nationally and internationally as well. So it's been fun. Just it's a hobby, and we post pictures and people like it, and we get a lot of interaction with companies and just other social media people in general. So
I love it. And at what point does somebody become, I guess I'm assuming the micro level is the beginning, right? Or is there a level below micro influencer?
yeah, I think, in the world of influencing, you can really, once you get to around like 1,000, I think you have some kind of draw. Obviously, there's different levels to it. And not to jump into the business side, but, depending upon, how many followers you have, the engagement, things along those lines, you can dictate different prices for like rate sheets as far as things you promote and the things you ask for, things along those lines. I'm not sure these certain tiers, but I'm sure it goes from like, whatever, 1 to 5,000, 5,000 to like 20,000 and so on and so forth, where you can kind of just have a different business model for kind of like how influential you are in the world of social.
What do you love about fishing? What does it do for you? I know you spend a lot of time on the weekends, and you study up on it. And you're very focused on it. What does it do for you personally?
Yeah. So, there's two things, right? I think traditionally when people think of fishing in general, it's like very relaxing. You're sitting on a lawn chair, you got a beer cracked open, and you're just sitting there kind of enjoying nature, which definitely that is an aspect of fishing. The way I fish is completely opposite. Not to say that it's not relaxing, but so fishing competitively in a kayak, there's a lot of critical thinking, right? And I think, I enjoy like really kind of like problem solving and critical thinking tasks in general. So the thing is, when you're competing, like you got to figure out, what the bass are eating, where they are for the certain time of year, trying to find out like the pattern, which basically means like, what they're basically biting on, and then having like a strategy for like tournament day, things along those lines. So just kind of figuring out, and you're doing that and trying to be the best among, it could be a couple hundred anglers out there on the lake in one day. So I think that's what draws me. It's like, it's not only relaxing, but also it allows me to kind of critical think outside of the agency and kind of exercise my brain in that manner.
That's great. That's great. And I know you always tell me I need to figure out something too. My my passion tends to be business and e-commerce. And then my weekends are spent, researching and exploring the world of e-commerce, but it doesn't really get me outside that often. So I know you've been on me about that.
Yeah. Your hobby is work. And that comes down on me, Ramin.
Yes.
Because the more you work, the more I work. And it's like, yes, trying to take a break.
Note to all the listeners out there who are running businesses. When your hobby is work, you're generally sending Slack messages to your business partner on the weekends, and the receiving end probably not loving it because, they're enjoying themselves. They're actually doing something fun out there. So I get it.
Same time, we gotta get stuff done. So,
there's definitely that part of it too. Yeah. So, that's fascinating. I love that you share that. That's a very interesting side of your life. That, you share with your girlfriend and things that you guys do, and you're building a business, and you're tapping into an area right now, which is very hot, influencer marketing.
Sure.
And goes to the point that, you can be an influencer on many levels, and you're bringing your passion into it. So I think that's phenomenal. Yeah, but totally. Let's segue into this fascinating topic called conversion focused design. And I kind of added all those words together. Really, at the end of the day, conversion, in the world of e-commerce is very important. But I'd love to hear, and you have a lot of experience in this, and it's something that you have pointed out, and you have made sure that as an agency that we continuously, put our attention in that direction, because ultimately at the end of the day, our job is to help our clients not only get a good site up and running, but help them make money and grow their business. Tell the viewers out there what your definition of conversion focused design is.
Yeah. So, as far as the definition, really, it's just, there's two types. At least in my experience and historically being a graphic designer and a front-end developer and SEO manager, as you mentioned, I found that there's design, and then there's kind of like design that's conversion focused, right? You can take a look at a website design, and at least I can take a look at a website design from one designer that hasn't really made a lot of thought into like converting the user. And I can look at another one. I'm like, oh yeah, like there's a lot of thought that's been put into this as far as kind of the techniques that they've employed. So really, I would probably say conversion focused design is probably a design that implements specific techniques that helps your user base convert with whatever you're trying to have them convert on, I guess, for kind of a loose definition.
Okay. And we as an agency focus our attention on the Shopify ecosystem.
Yeah.
That's, as an agency, what we do, and a lot of viewers out there who are watching this maybe have some experience with Shopify, and they know that Shopify has themes. Also equivalent to maybe templates in the world of WordPress, but Shopify's themes are, you download a theme and you add it to your store. What is your opinion on the out-of-the-box theme, the theme that hasn't been touched by a designer? Are they conversion focused out of the box, or do they need a lot of work to get to that place?
Yeah, I think, those themes, obviously they're vetted by Shopify, and, these companies are putting together these themes. Obviously they need to put in kind of placeholder images and kind of put together the demo, because obviously that's what the end user, the merchant, is purchasing, right? They're looking at the demo, they're like, oh, this is beautiful, whatever. So there is some design consideration when they are building those themes. And I think out of the box, they're reasonable. I mean, they probably have most things in there, but I mean, a lot of the things that have to do with kind of like conversion-based design is some of it entails the images that you use on the site and the actual content that you're putting on the site, not just the framework. Because really, when you're buying a theme, if you notice, yes, you see a beautiful demo theme, but when you actually download it, it's just like this blank skeleton of a theme, right? So you're tasked with putting in the right information and then making it look nice, adhere to the brand, and also convert at the same time.
Right. And that's an important area to touch on. When we work with clients, we love clients that bring us a web style guide. Then, if they have that already done. If they don't, then, it's something that we can do for them. But how do you integrate that web style guide into the design? Because I watch our designers and we've got, you help lead that world. And, I see a lot of work that goes into molding that world of web style guide, adhering to their brand identity, but also getting in that those conversion elements into the design. Talk a little bit about that and how that gets put together.
Yeah. So that style guide is pretty important. And really the style guide in of itself, I mean, it's really just giving us some kind of foundational design elements to work with, right? Because if you jump into a design without any kind of foundation, you wind up playing this game of like designing and also kind of building out their brand inadvertently. Usually when a client doesn't have a design, we're looking at the logo, we're looking at an existing site, if they have an existing site for their branding, which can be difficult sometimes, right? Because they're trying to get, oftentimes they're trying to get away from that design. That's why they're doing a redesign in the first place. So it's difficult, right? We just, whether it's a web style guide or brand guidelines or pretty much anything for us to have a foundation on, like we really need something like that to start up. Otherwise, we wind up down this weird rabbit hole of like building a brand while also trying to design a site, and it's just bad news.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then how do you know where to put that call to action or that CTA when let's talk about, like, for example, the homepage hero image, the slider at the top, and you're trying to adhere to the brand's identity, you're working with different colors and fonts. Well, how do you know where to put that CTA, and why is it important to be in one spot versus another spot?
Yeah, it's a very good question. And I think, a lot of like novice designers and just merchants in general that are putting together their theme, they rely on the theme itself to kind of like make those decisions, right? Because a lot of times when you do get those themes, those call to actions are kind of put in certain places, which is totally fine. But in general, I mean, as long as you have like the company's brand and everything kind of in place, there are a lot of things that go into kind of the just designing for conversion, right? I mean, there's tons of principles, tons of articles about it. Placement of the CTA is a big deal, and then factor into that, there's visual hierarchy as well. So like things, elements on the page, you'll notice that, just as an example, like if you have like a picture and it's like all circles and all circles are the same size, like none of those circles stand out, right? But if you have one circle that's twice as big, your eye naturally gravitates toward that circle, right? And the same principles apply to web design. Like if all the elements on the page are kind of the same weight, then the user really doesn't really notice anything, right? So you need to make sure that you understand the visual hierarchy of the things on your page, and as far as like what you want your users to do. That oftentimes translates into the call to action being a little bit bigger than everything on the page, or alternatively, it can be contrasting.
Right.
Color theory has a lot to do with designing for conversion too. Again, you have a page that's all similar. The brand has, these primary colors of, purple and gold and white. And so you see that all over the site. And if you put a call to action that's purple or gold, like it's just going to blend in with the rest of the site, right? So you need to have,
Right.
you need to think about having some kind of tertiary or quaternary color that kind of contrasts with that to make sure that it stands out to the user. Because the last thing you want to do is have the user kind of wandering your site, not knowing what to do, right? There's a great book, one of the first ones I read about that's called Don't Make Me Think. It's basically just a website design guide on like basically techniques and tips and tricks to not allow your users to be confused. Like just tell them what to do on your site. Like you want them to click a button. You want them, to fill out a form. So make it obvious. Don't make them think about what to do. Because oftentimes that's how you get bounces and drop offs and things along those lines.
Well, that's interesting. We'll put that book in the show notes because I think it's important for anybody who maybe is going to tackle this on their own or just wants to understand what an agency like ours would help them do in the process. I think it's important for them to see some of the publications out there. But I always looked at the homepage as the most traffic page on a site generally in most cases, and do everything you can to get somebody off of the homepage, get them into the conversion process, get them into the buying process. I mean, really, that's what, as e-commerce merchants, that's what you're here for. You're here to build a business. You're here to grow. You're here to. But if you have them just stuck on the homepage and they don't know where to go, then that's where you have, I would assume you would agree with this to say that's where you have conversion problems. That's where, people are dropping off, they're leaving, and you'll see it, right? You're certified on the Google Analytics platform. You're going to see that, right? You're going to go, you're going to pop in there and you're going to see, wow, look at those bounce rates. Those are not looking good for my business. And what if I could get them to that point where my conversion then is somewhere in the neighborhood of maybe 5%. And what does that do for my business? And continuously pushing it up, right? That's the goal.
Yeah, totally. And I mean, that brings up a good topic too. It's like really the first step is kind of understanding your audience, right? I mean, not only looking at your analytics, but understanding who your audience is, right? I mean, if your audience is, if you're catering to kind of like the elderly, obviously, you may want something a little bit, visually like bigger so they can see it better, whereas, you're catering to, I guess for whatever reason, you're catering to kind of a younger demographic. You want the site to be a little more hip, a little more like modern potentially. Right. I mean, I don't know, it really depends on who exactly you're targeting. But yeah, really, I think the first step is kind of understanding your buyer persona, your target audience,
right?
And kind of catering not only the brand to that, but also the site.
And I assume in the process of, I know what we do on the sales side of things, and, we talk a lot about this, but as you get into when a client has started out with us for the first time and we've done the kickoff call, you then take over the project and start to understand and put together the strategy. I assume at that point, that's where you're digging into that buyer's persona, understanding more about, their audience, really diving deep, correct?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So we'll go through a litany of questions, or I'll go through a litany of questions with the clients, just kind of understanding, kind of the user journey. If they have an existing one, just seeing how the user kind of works their way through the site, not only through the site, but then after the purchase is made, like what that buying experience looks like, right? Because obviously that lends itself to repeat customers, how your buying experience happens after the fact as well. Digging into analytics, looking at competitors, doing a competitive analysis,
right,
just to see what everybody else is doing out there as well. So yeah, there's a lot that goes into it just to understand the business itself, but also it helps to figure out what the right strategy is as far as what we put forth in the website as well.
Okay. So let's say a client comes to us and they already have a site design, they're a little iffy on it. They feel like maybe they need a new site. They feel like their conversions could be a lot better. What are you looking at first in terms of the analytics side of things to see if there's a problem? What are those key metrics that you're looking at?
Yeah. I mean, if we're looking inside of analytics, like we're really looking at kind of the drop off, right? We're looking at the behavior flow. Usually you'll see users transition at least from like the path that they're supposed to. Is usually in the world of e-commerce. I mean, you're going from a homepage either directly to the collections to kind of look at the products that you're about to buy, or you'll go straight from the homepage into a particular product. It really depends on the user and your product offering as well. So just looking for where people are dropping off, looking at, time on page. Traditionally, if a user is spending a lot of time on the page and the product doesn't necessitate like education, like it's really like the product is very simple and they don't need to be reading on a page. If they're on a page for a long time, it could be an indicator that they're not sure what to do, or they're untrusting, or they're not ready to purchase, right? Because by the time you get to a product page, I mean, you really just need to look at it for a little bit before you click that add to cart button and get out of there and start purchasing. If they're there too long, something's going on. We probably need to investigate. So yeah, I mean, those are kind of the baseline metrics that I start to look at. Bounce rates as well. I mean, that kind of lends itself to a number of things, right? It could be a number of things. It could be, page load speed, or it could be, the fact that there's no obvious call to action, or there's not enough trust. So like seeing those numbers and seeing where people are dropping off, that's kind of just a red flag to kind of like, all right, look here, there's something going on here. And then at that point in time, you just dig into it and see what's going on.
Okay. And then, so you look at those metrics and you identify maybe there's a problem. Okay. Maybe the client is correct, that they could be doing a lot better. When you go through the process of, redesigning the site, finding that new theme, customizing that new theme, are you coming back to those same metrics to identify if you've had that lift? I assume it's, you're probably annotating, the day the new site launched. Are you looking at those same analytics to kind of compare, apples to apples to see what the lift looked like?
Yeah. I mean, we're always tracking metrics. Like we're always trying to track our efforts to make sure that we're actually delivering for the client, right? So yeah, I mean, if there is, let's just say on a particular product page, the conversion on there is like really low. Like let's just say it's like, 0.5 or something conversion on the product page, and we make the appropriate adjustments. Let's just say, the CTA wasn't obvious and the product offering was a little off, and maybe we do some like pricing analysis and see what other competitors are doing. We kind of adjust the price on the product as well. Yeah, I mean, once we launch, we're looking at the metrics. We're giving it enough time to get enough traction or get enough users to actually provide actual substantial data. And then, we're looking back from the previous site and seeing how things are going. And usually I would say, 99% of the time, you're going to get more conversions when you're done working with us.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Let's talk about the DIY world. Let's say, somebody's watching this and you know what? They're not ready for an agency to take them to that next level. They want to do it themselves. They're ready to tackle this. Maybe what 1 to 3 things could they do immediately without redesigning their site that they could do to their site today that could potentially have a positive impact on conversions from a design perspective?
Sure. It's a good question. I would say, I mean, first and foremost, and this doesn't really involve design, but I would just say, keep it simple. Like don't go thinking about these things, these design conversion things. Cause I mean, you got to get your product out there. You got to have like a good product offering before you start diving into these kind of, I wouldn't even consider them micro conversions, but some of them are micro conversions, right? I mean, just like clicks on buttons and stuff. So definitely make sure your product offering and your brand is in order before you go down that road. But after that, I mean, if you're going to be playing around with these, these types of design elements that help with conversion, I would probably look at the things that have a bigger impact, right? It's not so much like, change this button color or change whatever, right? Those are kind of small things, and they have big impacts on companies with big traffic and big revenue, right? I mean, if you increase your conversion by 0.25% on Amazon, that equates to like millions of dollars, right? But in the world of, Joe DIYer, I mean, that's not going to mean much. That might not even equate to a sale. So I would definitely say, make sure that people trust your brand is probably the first thing. You land on a site, like you can tell right away, right? I think we've all landed on the site where like, oh, like, I don't know about these. Like, I don't know about these guys. And what is it, right? Like a lot of the times users don't know. They're like, just something's not right? Something's not right. Either the design element's off or the design is antiquated. So just making sure, I think that's the first step is just, making sure that you establish some kind of trust on your website, whether that be through your other marketing channels, showing the user, advertising to the user, the whole like marketing rule of 7 basically just says a user will have to touch your brand 7 times before they actually convert or take some kind of action on your brand. I think nowadays, it's like 11 just because of all the content that's coming at users nowadays. But yeah, just establishing that trust, whether it be outside the website or actually on the website. You definitely need both.
Trust is a very important, especially for brands, small brands that, nobody knows who they are, where they came from. And, I think Shopify enables that world for the small brands, right? It is a platform that is very friendly to the entrepreneurs out there, but also to the big businesses. It works with enterprise as well, but the smaller brands out there, they need trust. So just dive into trust just a little bit, because, sometimes people think of trust badges, right? All right, well, I'm just going to stick a trust badge on there and everybody's going to say, oh, I can buy from these guys. They've got this trust badge. Tell me what trust means in the world of design. There's so many levels of it, right? What are the simple ones that people can focus on?
Yeah. So establishing trust on your site. Yes. I mean, trust badges like certifications or anything like that, BBB, certs, A+ rating, all that stuff. I mean, all that stuff helps for sure. But trust, I mean, it kind of spans, it's bigger than that, right? It's bigger than just these trust badges. It's basically just getting the user to feel comfortable purchasing from you, right? And a lot of things you can do to kind of help them, guide them through that, like reduce the friction of trust, right? Because you land on a new site, you've never seen this brand before. You're like, okay, like, do I trust buying from these guys? One of the best things is the fact that they're on Shopify, right? Like Shopify, the platform itself, you understand that going through checkout, you don't have to worry about any weird things happening inside of checkout. So that's kind of a nice thing to have. That's why one of the reasons why we build on Shopify. In addition to that, having outside reviews or customer reviews, things along those lines, like that helps too, right? Because I think, as far as the metric goes, I don't know the exact number, but I read at some point in time, I think referrals like account for like 80% of kind of user traffic on websites, just websites in general. I don't know if it's e-commerce websites, but the reason that is because obviously there's already existing trust with that particular person. And so when they refer somebody to you, you're like, oh, okay, well, I trust that person. So they're vouching for this company. So I'm cool. Like I'm good. I can shop with them in it. And the same thing applies at a micro level to reviews in general, right? That's why Amazon reviews are so important. And that's why reviews on your product page and overall in general, like with your business, is super important. Yeah. So when you're starting out, you have no trust. I mean, those are a couple little things that you can do to kind of get the user to trust you. And obviously from a design standpoint, making sure your site is up to date. It looks the way that it should. It doesn't have broken links. It doesn't have broken images. Images are high quality. Things along those lines. Things that basically indicate to the user that you actually care about your site, right? The site itself is it's another storefront, right? If you have a brick and mortar store, I know we always tout that like having an online store is like having like two stores. You can't just treat it like, oh, it's just this other thing that I got on the side to help facilitate more sales. It's like it's an actual like store, and you got to treat it as such. You don't leave your brick and mortar store with a cracked window.
Right.
So you wouldn't leave your online store with like a broken link or, whatever, broken images. So just making sure that all that is in order.
Yeah, that's well said, because you're right. Who would do that, right? Who would maybe dismantle some things in their window and then just, for their brick and mortar, and then not put it back together, just leave it as is, get to tomorrow. You have people walking by. Foot traffic. You want your windows to be that essentially that homepage, right? That pulls people in, that creates that trust that who they are. But I think in the world of the omni-channel, where e-commerce is going, there are so many touch points now, right? You can do social commerce, you can sell there, you can sell on your site. So you have these touch points, you have opportunities. So now you have to tend to all of them and really make sure that they all, have that conversion focused design. And some of them you can jump in and utilize the templates, right? You can use the infrastructure that's already there. But that's a great way of thinking it. You're not going to have a broken window or a messy, front of your store. It's going to be clean, tidy, neat, inviting. Same thing goes for your homepage and other pages on your site too. So that's great. No, I love that. So, slightly off the topic, but specific to Shopify. We've been working in the world of Shopify as an agency for 4 years now. I ran my business prior to that on Shopify. You built a business on Shopify. We know a lot about Shopify, and it's definitely the hot brand and the hot platform out there. What do you love about Shopify? What is it that really gets you excited about what Shopify is doing?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that they're really tech forward. They're looking forward to the future. They're constantly putting out updates. They're constantly making the platform better. And in turn, it consistently helps our clients like do the things they want to do, right? Like with the recent advent of like markets, all the sales channels they're pushing out, and then just like their focus, right? They're focused on building their platform and making it better and continue to grow. And I think that's one of the biggest things that kind of excites me about Shopify, outside of the fact that it's just way easier to use than, than most of the other platforms, and way easier to build in. Yeah, there's always something new. Every time that Unite conference rolls around, it's exciting to hear what they got on the table and what they plan on doing with the platform.
Yeah. And just, you love it when I send you those emails and those Slack messages one after another. Yeah, I bet you. Look what they just did. Look what they just did. But all right. So on that topic, what is it that you wish that they would do that they haven't done yet? Is there anything that stands out that you say, really wish Shopify would do that?
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I haven't really thought about that one. I mean, I know right now we're dealing with some wholesale stuff. I know they haven't really blown out their wholesale channel for regular Shopify clients. Shopify Plus, obviously you can, you have your full range of things you can do, but maybe having, catering a little bit more to kind of the wholesale feature or the wholesale portion of a merchant's business on like the regular Shopify platform. Because I think we find a lot of times we run into a lot of hurdles like with that. I mean, I know they've addressed some of it with OS 2.0, especially with like the meta fields being included in OS 2.0 that allows us to kind of do some fancy stuff on individual product pages. But yeah, just a little more focus on the wholesale side.
Well, that's interesting because we are seeing a lot of brands that previously were selling business to business now wanting to go DTC, but they want to still incorporate have a strong footprint in the business to business or wholesale side of things with the same site. And yeah, there's definitely some challenges that have come up. Some that the apps can, that are out there, the wholesale apps, some that, can be solved, but yeah, we're starting to see some unique, use cases that are popping up. I like that a lot. I always say that, yes, I think Shopify is great. I've put a lot of effort and energy in my world, previously to SKU and now with SKU on Shopify. But, it's always good to pay attention. There are other platforms out there and, who's making moves and who's building things. Innovation really is, use that word, and innovation is the key. Continuing to innovate really will, drive anything, right? Design, development, anything like that. So now I just was curious on your take on some of those things, but I think, to sum up this world of conversion focused design, it is clearly incredibly important, and maybe something that a lot of businesses don't necessarily think about as they come into the process. And, I think it's important, as the whole goal of this video podcast is to educate, also entertain, which we'll get to just in entertaining in just a moment. But, the conversion focused design, if you're going to do you're going to launch a new site, you're going to redesign a site, it is important to have it in good hands. It's important to have it with, a team that really understands and puts a lot of effort into it. And we always really try to make sure that, that's at the forefront of what we think about. That's something you preach heavily. But, for anybody who's doing it themselves, just take that moment to try to understand what it means. Get into your analytics, right? Jump in, see where the problems are, see where the drop-off points are in your business, and see, maybe even some just minor design changes that you can make within the theme that would have that lift, and then go back and monitor it, right? That's, otherwise you're never going to know if it worked or not. But, I think it's a really fun process, and I love watching what comes out of the design side of our business when we're working with clients, and just seeing that incredible attention to, I always look at it and I say, okay, why did they put that button there? Why not up here? Well, they must have, because they were thinking about it, thinking about it. And would you agree that, you can think about it all day long? You can be, very diligent. You can understand, but it does come down to testing and trying things out, correct?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, what you're putting forward is your best guess of what the user would do, right? So you're putting yourself in a high percentage position to convert and get the numbers you want. But ultimately, at the end of the day, like, users are going to do what they do, and looking at the numbers, as they say, the numbers don't lie. And that's going to help dictate your decisions moving forward and whether or not the things that you've done have worked. So, the players in the split testing, A/B testing game, Those I've used so many, like the unbounces, the VTO, the visual website, or VWO, visual website optimizer.
Right. Yeah.
All those Optimizely, like all of them.
Mm-hmm.
I've used all of them, and those are super helpful. They help you quickly test. You don't have to mess with too much code, if any at all, to do your testing. And it's kind of fun. I'll be honest. Like when we were doing back in my day when I was doing some hardcore split testing, it was kind of nice to see like, okay, I had this idea and I had this idea, so we're going to run some tests. And you just keep an eye on it, and then you'll see like, oh, people clicked on this like way more than they clicked on this, and things along those lines. And yeah, it's kind of a fun little game to play and see what users are doing. So yeah, totally.
Always test. Great. Always test. Yeah, no, I love it. That's great. Well, this has been phenomenal to learn about this. I think hopefully viewers out there are going to take some information about this, take it back, and really digest it and think about how it affects their business. But before we wrap up, I'd like some rapid fire questions for you, because I think we got to know you in the beginning, a little bio on you, but I'd love to know a few other things. And I think that viewers and listeners out there, are always interested. You're running you're part of a successful agency. It's very demanding. What does your world look like? So if you're okay with that, I'm going to throw some questions your way, and you can give me one word answers, or you can elaborate, whichever one. I'm not going to be strict about how it works. So first one is, what gets you excited each day to wake up and tackle the day? What gets you excited?
Interesting. What gets me excited? It's the new challenges that our clients put forth. They have very unique and interesting problems. And when I wake up and there's a new one, and it's like, I've never seen this before. Like, what are we going to do here? It's fun. It gets me excited. It's like, all right, I'm going to figure this thing out. So yeah, that's probably the answer there.
Okay, great. Knowing how important mornings are and, getting and tackling that day, what's your drink of choice in the morning?
Oh my God, coffee, black.
Black.
All day. I'll drink it all the way up until noon, if not a little bit past noon, which is probably not a good idea. But yeah, definitely got to have my coffee to get started.
Nice. And nothing in it, huh? Just I didn't realize it was black coffee. I thought you put stuff in your coffee.
No, I used to. I was on the whole, butter bulletproof coffee train for a little while with the butter and the MCT oil, but toned it down, back to black.
All right. So given the long day of work, and maybe the weekend rolls around and you're just, sitting back and relaxing, what's the drinking of choice to just sit back and relax on a weekend and, and sip?
It's a good question. So it always changes. So right now we are in a kind of a soju type of phase where we're doing like soju drinks, and soju is just I believe it's a Japanese wine or a Japanese liquor that you basically just kind of mix it. And it kind of follows the same rules as vodka. So you can kind of mix it with the same stuff that you mix with vodka. So yeah, that's our flavor of the month right now.
Nice. And anybody who is underage, you do not try that. That is not for you. And drive responsibly. Enjoy it on the weekend, and just think about all the great things. And that's very interesting. I didn't even know about that drink. I had no idea. I've learned several things on this video podcast. So, if you weren't doing what you're doing for SKU, what would you be doing? What would excite you?
Interesting. I mean, if we're talking about having fun, obviously I go fishing a lot, right? If I can make a living out of that, that'd be awesome. But I'm not good enough, nor am I influential enough. But realistically speaking, I don't know. I probably, the family has a real estate business going on, and that's, it's always intrigued me. It's never like, it's never lit a fire under me like e-commerce does. But that's probably something I would pursue. I'm interested in that.
Hot time. It's a hot time right now. Hot time.
For sure.
hard to sit on the sidelines and watch. No, I get it. That's very interesting. All right. Here's my last question for you.
Yeah.
All right. What's your go-to software? What's the software that you cannot live without on a daily basis?
Oh, man. I would say there's so many that I feel I can't live without, right? I mean, we have at least I have three main ones that I'll break out, and then I guess I'll pick from one of those. So the main ones that I open up every day in the morning is my email, Slack, and ClickUp for our project management system. As far as the one that I can't live without, it's probably email. It's probably I use SparkMail. It's got some nuances to it, but it works and it does exactly what I needed to do. I can schedule emails. I can snooze emails, things along those lines. And push come to shove, if everything got lost, if Slack went away, I could still communicate via email. If ClickUp went away, I could still, not very efficiently, but I could still PM using email.
Right.
So I think that's the one, SparkMail.
Wow, there it is. Yeah, SparkMail, and you tried to get me on it, and I was on it for a long time. I love the mobile version. It's phenomenal. One of the best mobile email apps I've ever used. I just got a little lost in the in the layout and the way it. But I get that everybody's got their own, and that's very, very interesting. And you would probably ask a lot of agencies. Slack is probably up there, right? It's
sure.
Go-to. Why is probably why they got purchased by who bought
Intuit.
No, Intuit did not.
Did they buy it?
No, Salesforce bought them.
Salesforce.
Yes. Yeah. 44 billion. I think,
That's
$44 billion. So one of the biggest transactions for a small software company, right?
It's insane.
Yeah, no. So it's absolutely a go-to for all of us in our business, and I love it too. Well, this has been phenomenal, Michael. I mean, conversion-focused design, as we said, super important for every e-commerce merchant out there to pay attention to. As an agency, very important for us to continue to be on the forefront of it and continue to push the envelope and understand all the changes and really understand shopper behavior. Really, there's a lot of that that's, baked into it. And you've provided us with so much information. I love working with you each and every day. I learn a ton of information, and I've learned a lot on this podcast as well. And I look forward to learning more on future podcasts. And we'll have Michael back again. You saw his resume. He doesn't just talk about conversion focused design. He's going to be talking about other things. So we'll have him back on a future date, and stay tuned for new episodes coming up each and every week as we continue to roll this out. And we're super excited to do this. So thank you very much, Michael, for taking the time out of your day to do this. I know your Slack is probably, pinging, every channel's been lit up since you've been offline for about an hour. So I'll let you get back to that, and we will take this and go with it. So thank you so much.
No, thanks, Ramin. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. If you enjoyed this episode of the E-Commerce Revolution podcast, please subscribe to our channel on YouTube or drop us a review wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thank you very much.